If you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know that I am a huge fan of the Canon M50. I've used this for just tons of different projects, highlights like creating an intro video for the Stanley Cup Finals in Vegas, or I shot a piece with my buddy Scott Backen for CIBC. It's like a big bank. It was a big influencer piece, and did lots of like vlogging, adventures, travel stuff with it. And I was just always blown away by how such a cheap camera could perform so well in lots of different situations. And there's some other videos on this channel if you want to know about setting up an M50 for like a cinematic, more filmmaking style videos or vlogging or good stuff like that. But we're actually here today to talk about the brand new Mark II Canon M50 that, you know, recently got announced. And when I heard that a Mark II was coming, I was so excited because the Mark I has tons of great features. Let's talk about the things that make this such a good all-around camera. One, if you're a creator and you're filming yourself at all, the sideways flippy screen is the absolute best. You can see yourself, you can frame up the shot, you know what's happening there. And when it comes out sideways, it isn't getting in the way of putting a mic on top, which is a problem with the Canon M6 Mark II or most of the Sony cameras is they flip up, and that's just not as good of an experience as flipping out to the side. So flippy screen, it's got a mic input jack, so you can plug in a microphone like a wireless one like this, or put a little microphone on top, cut down wind noise. It's fantastic. It's got amazing autofocus, so that you know that you're always actually going to be in focus. And things like the Panasonic I'm shooting on, not so much. Canon's autofocus is always really good. And the 1080p video quality on this looks fantastic. It's just, the colors are great. The video looks great as long as it's not like really, really low light. But generally, it just, in general, was so easy to use and get a good picture really easy. And that's what made it such a joy as a content creation tool. Was it's small, it's light. Even the kit lens on it is not bad. Side note, one of the great things about Canon, if you're into vlogging, is that they're ultra wide angle lenses, which gives you kind of like that Casey Neistat style look where it's just like you can see so much of the world around you. On Canons are really cheap. I think in this one, it's about $400 Canadian, probably closer to like $300 US dollars. And Sony's 10 to 18 millimeter, which is their ultra wide vlogging lens, is like almost $1,000. So that makes it really, really affordable. But even the kit lens on this one versus normal Canon lenses that come with, like, if you were to get a 90D, 80D, 70D, something in that range, aren't as wide. This one is a little bit wider at 15 millimeters. So even good out of the box for vlogging. And like, it almost feels like not quite pocketable, but you know, like it's so small and light. It's just such a fantastic tool. So all around, it was great. Now, some of the drawbacks of the first generation M50 were as follows. One, it technically shoots 4K, and this intro video we shot for the Stanley Cup Finals was in 4K, but it crops in a big chunk, which means you have to push the camera so much farther back. You have basically no hope of actually vlogging in 4K on this camera because you just can't get wide enough with that crop. You also don't have the good Canon dual pixel autofocus in 4K. It doesn't support it. So it has this really lame contrast style that doesn't work well at all. So don't expect to be able to autofocus. 120 frames per second, thanks to fellow Canadian YouTuber Peter McKinnon. You may have heard of him. Just really like that super slow motion. On this, it only does 120 frames per second at 720p, and it doesn't look good at all. Whereas like Sony's been doing it at 1080p and good looking for many, many years. And so I was hoping that when we saw the Mark II version, we would remedy some of those things, as well as maybe getting a little better low light performance, maybe a new sensor, new processor, and really take away all the drawbacks and make this such a fantastic camera. And so we have the press release. You want to go to bed? Okay, I'll be up in 2 minutes, okay?
No, can you help?
Well, I'm actually just in the middle of filming a video right now.
No.
Can I help you right when I'm done? Okay, just a second, okay? Stay quiet there, okay? Press release is as follows, the life of being a dad. For the family who strives for high quality output when capturing their precious moments, or for the budding social media content creator, the added and improved capabilities of the EOS M50 Mark II camera make the upgrade to an interchangeable lens camera extremely appealing. The new features include, we'll go through each one of these in detail, Improved autofocus, including eye autofocus for stills and videos. This is the big feature that they're leading with, which is on the normal Canon M50, what you have is a face detect autofocus. It detects faces and focuses on faces, and it works really, really well. On this one, it can detect an eye, which Panasonic's been doing that for a while, and Sony's been doing that. And the place where that's really handy is if you're shooting with really, really low aperture, meaning lenses that open up really, really wide and give you that super blurry background, shallow depth of field, where you can actually have situations where a nose will be in focus, but the eye will be out of focus. Mostly if you're shooting like close-up portraits, you got like an 85 millimeter f1.8 lens or something like that. You can end up with a situation where eyes are slightly out of focus. And it's handy for that, mostly for photography or maybe some kind of like super cinematic-y video. But especially for vlogging and general content creation, having a face in focus is plenty good enough. You're not really going to run into situations, especially with like a kit lens or a vlogging lens or in those kind of situations where you need the eye to be in focus and not just a face. And the face worked really well on the M50 Mark I. But okay, that's a subtle improvement. Okay, 1. 2, vertical video shooting support. What that means is if you turn the camera sideways, on the new version, it'll detect that it's sideways and it'll make the video file natively a vertical video instead of horizontal video, which I guess is if you aren't planning to edit the video, that could be a bit helpful, save you a little bit of time. But here's the thing is if you're planning to edit it all on a computer, in any kind of editing software, flipping a horizontal video to vertical, not really that difficult. Or even let's say you're using this camera because you just want to go straight to TikTok with a little bit better quality or Instagram Reels. So you transfer it from here to your phone using the app. At least on an iPhone, it's literally like you hit edit and then you turn it horizontal to vertical and you save it and you're done and you've fixed it. So, I mean, that's something, but that's the second best feature that they're listing. Number 3, vari-angle touchscreen LCD with newly added tap video record button and movie self-timer for better vlogging experience. So this one has a touchscreen, but yeah, what you can't do on the touchscreen is hit record. On mine, I have it set where you hit this button and then it records. So I guess you can hit it on the screen. Okay, and I mean the self-timer could be good if you're really not wanting to edit and you want to put on like, hey, a 10-second delay, then start filming and go stand in front of the camera and wait. Like if you don't want to edit at all, which maybe that's what some people are into. But again, like even on your phone, taking off the first 10 seconds of a video is so easy. But anyway, that's 3. 4, high quality webcam capability when used with compatible services with the free EOS webcam utility software or clean HDMI output. What does this mean? You can download software for your PC or your Mac from Canon that lets you use this camera as a webcam, which you can also do on the Mark I M50. I use this as a webcam all the time. When you use it as a webcam, that means you can use it with like Zoom or YouTube Live or Facebook Live, anywhere where it supports like using a webcam, you can use your camera as a webcam. Now, it doesn't transmit audio, just video, so you need to have a separate audio solution like a mic or something, but so the Mark II does what the Mark I can do, except for clean HDMI output. This is potentially a big deal if you're a streamer. If you're a streamer, that opens up a few more options. This one doesn't really have a real clean HDMI output, meaning if you plug in HDMI and you want to use it for streaming to something, there's going to be icons on the screen, primarily like if you want autofocus to work, which you do. On the Mark I, you still have this little box around your face, and so you can't use autofocus. To have a clean HDMI output with no icons on the screen from the camera, you have to turn off autofocus. On this one, you don't have to. So that's okay. That's something. Clean HDMI out, that's handier if you want to record video externally, something small. That's 4. Number 5, wireless YouTube live streaming capability. So you can stream, not from this one, but from the Mark II, wirelessly to YouTube without anything else. Okay, like that's cool, but just so you know, you can buy a $25 little dongle and hook up most HDMI cameras. Again, this one won't work with autofocus, and then you can stream to whatever you want. But even with the EOS webcam utility software, you can make that work with a lot of things. I believe even YouTube I swear I've done that before. I'm sure you can, but this is, again, is easy. It sounds like it's a camera where they're trying to give a few features to people who aren't technically savvy. Not a bad thing, but that's 5. And number 6, the ability to tap the screen to autofocus on your subject while looking through an EVF, helping to control who the main focus of the image is. What this means is that you can look through here, through your eye hole thing, and if you, let's say it was focusing on something over here and you want it to focus on something over there, you actually just tap on the touch screen with your thumb and you're able to tell it where you want it to autofocus. And so like that can be handy, that you want to tell it where to autofocus. And on the Mark I, I don't think you can do that. You kind of have to back up and touch or do something. Like that's a common and maybe a little more medium, higher end cameras, but something for photographers. But that's the entire list of improvements for the Mark II. Nothing else. Like no full frame 4K, no super slow motion 120 frames per second at 1080p, no better low light, no new sensor, no new processor. Processor? I don't know. How do you guys say that? Processor? It's really disappointing because Canon released a new Canon M50 Mark II, which had a brand new 32 megapixel sensor, had 4K stretched out the entire width of the frame, not cropped in, zoomed in. I believe did 1080p, 120 frames per second. Like was a whole new like generation of camera, as well as they've got this new Digic X processor, which they could have put in the M50 Mark II, given it these new features, and it would have been like such a powerful, incredible little camera. And instead they gave us that, which feels disappointing if you're a fairly serious video shooter, because it was amazing what was possible with the M50. But all that being said, am I saying I can't recommend this camera? No, I'm not saying that at all. This is still M50 Mark I or Mark II is a fantastic creation tool, because I can just tell you they're so easy to use. The autofocus works great. You turn it on, the picture generally looks really good. Put it in 1080p, and it's a great camera for creating all sorts of different content. And so really easy, and the price point is good. I believe right now the Canon M50, at least in Canadian dollars from a normal camera store, $750 for a Mark I, which I think is going to be about $599 US, I would guess, maybe $550 on sales. You could maybe find it around there. Or the Mark II is $950 Canadian, which is probably going to be around that $750 mark. Like that's pretty cheap for a camera that works and is going to do certainly a much better job than your phone if you learn how to use it. Now, phones are getting really good, but you've got a much bigger sensor. It's going to be better in low light. It's going to be a lot more flexible, and a lot more that you can do it with these cameras, adding mics, and it's built for that. So it's still a great camera for creating, but you have companies like Sony just released their A6100, 6400, 6700, and those are a lot more powerful. Do all the 4K stuff, the super slow motion, much better in low light. They still have the annoying screen that flips up instead of the side, which is what I love about the M50 and why I don't like the M6 Mark II, because its screen flips up. So, they had an opportunity, it feels like, to make a big step. And it feels like these list of features they could have added with a firmware update for free on the regular M50, because they didn't change the processor, didn't change the sensor, didn't really change any of the internals. They could have done that, but of course they're not going to, because now they can put a Mark II badge on it and sell it like it's new in 2020. It's really mostly the same as the 2018, which is still a great camera. It still is. For the price, it's really hard to beat the M50. It's just an all-around creation tool. So it's still good. It stings a little because it's disappointing, but it is what it is. The M50 Mark II is fine. Still a great creation tool. So if you have any specific questions about it or want to know anything in particular, drop a comment below. Be happy to answer it, talk about it, give me your take on it. Is there something I missed in the feature set that's big and useful that maybe, I don't know, I didn't see? I'd be happy to hear about it. But I'm Justin Rivas. There's probably some links below to where you can find some of the stuff that I'm talking about. If there's anything in this video, just holla for a dollar. Oh, that was bad. Okay, that's it.